If you work in accounts payable or you're just trying to break in, this video is going to save you months of confusion. Accounts payable looks simple from the outside, but once you're in, you realize there's a whole world of workflows, controls, processes, and risks nobody explained clearly. So today, I'm going to break down accounts payable from the ground up in the real world, so you can finally understand how everything fits together. Stick around until the end when we address the one topic that is rarely mentioned in accounting books, but is critical to a successful accounts payable function, and many get it wrong. Let's start off with a very short discussion of why accounts payable is critical to cash flow. Accounts payable controls cash flow more than most people realize. When accounts payable pays too fast, cash drains. When accounts payable pays too slow, vendors stop trusting you and in extreme cases may put your organization on credit hold. And when accounts payable pays the same invoice twice, suppliers just be quiet about it. Accounts payable times payments, manages invoices, prevents duplicate payments, and keeps cash predictable. Good accounts payable equals a stable cash flow. Bad accounts payable equals chaos. Cash flow isn't just finance. Accounts payable drives it every day. Since we've alluded to it, for a quick moment, I want to discuss payment terms, what we mean by them, and early payment discount. So by payment terms, we really mean how fast are the bills paid. When you or I get a bill, we either pay it immediately or sometimes there's a due date on it, like your credit card bill. Accounts payable has some real control over how fast bills are paid. In most cases, your procurement team will have negotiated payment terms. The one that we hear most commonly in the accounting books, not that it's used in every industry, is 210 net 30. And what this means is that the payment is due 30 days after the invoice date. But if you pay it within 10 days of the invoice date, you get a 2% discount. Hence, 210 net 30. Now, in most cases, companies who are offered early payment discounts will do everything in their power to take them. But if they don't take them for whatever the reason, then you want to pay by the due date. So, I've talked about payment terms, but this brings us down to the issue of what accounts payable actually does. Everyone thinks accounts payable is just paying bills. It's not. It's a lot more. Accounts payable is the gatekeeper of your company's money. They verify every invoice, match it to real purchase orders, catch errors, stop fraud, manage vendors, and make sure that cash goes out the door only when it should. If accounts payable fails, the whole business feels it in cash flow, in audits, in compliance, in everything. So yes, accounts payable doesn't just pay bills. Accounts payable protects your business. That being said, the primary task of accounts payable is paying invoices. Before an invoice can be scheduled for payment, it must be approved, and then its accuracy must be verified. And before you ask if any of this is necessary, the answer is a resounding yes. Criminals send phony invoices all the time, and invoices themselves, even legitimate invoices, are notoriously inaccurate. So the invoice is sent to the person who originally made the purchase for approval, saying, yes, I ordered this. You might think this is enough, that once it is approved for payment, you could simply schedule for payment and that would be it. But it isn't. Here's why. Most approvers don't check that they've already approved this invoice, so it could be a second or a third company. Most approvers don't verify that it came from a legitimate supplier. Yes, they know they ordered 100 widgets, but whether it was from ABC company or ABE company, many of them don't pay close attention to that. And lastly, and probably most important, most approvers don't check the details. They don't check, was the amount right? Was the price right? Did you actually get what you ordered? The payment terms, etc. There's a lot that goes into it. Now, to be fair, a few purchases do check the details, but the majority don't. So, as a best practice, every accounts payable team verifies the accuracy of those invoices. How? The way they do it is referred to as the three-way match. Let me try and explain the three-way match in like less than 30 seconds. Here's the three-way match, the core of the accounts payable function, in only a few seconds. Step one, the purchase order. This is what the company agreed to buy. Step 2, the receiving document. What actually arrived? Did they completely fill the order? And step 3, the invoice. What the vendor wants to be paid. How much are they billing you for? Accounts payable compares all 3. If the quantity, the price, and the terms match, and all the other details, schedule it for payment. If not, stop everything. That's how accounts payable prevents overpayments in one simple workflow. But what about those fraudulent invoices that I've mentioned? How can you recognize them? Well, there are some accounts payable fraud red flags. If you work in accounts payable, these fraud red flags should stop you instantly. Vendors suddenly change their bank information, duplicate invoice number, round number invoices, no purchase order, no receipt, no backup, rush requests from people who never rush, vendors you've never heard of. One red flag doesn't mean fraud, it just means stop and investigate. But 2 or 3, you should really start to get suspicious. AP is the front line of defense. Catch it early and save your company. Now let's take a deeper look at some of these red flags. And here are the 8 checks successful pros should never skip. Check number 1, the purchase order number. Now, you may not think that the purchase order number is important, but it is critical. What the purchase order number does, on top of other things, is first off, it tells the accounts payable associate who's processing the invoice who they should send the invoice to for approval. That's the first thing that most accounts payable departments do when they're processing an invoice. So if you get an invoice that doesn't have a purchase order number on it, even though most organizations don't like to do this, the best practice is to return it to the vendor with a really polite note saying that in order to process that invoice, it needs to have your purchase order number on it. The red flag that your AP folks should be looking for is a missing purchase order number. Check number 2 is the identity of the approver. This tells the accounts payable staff who they should send the invoice to for approval. Now, most invoices will not have this on it, and in fact, your suppliers are not going to know who is going to approve the invoice for payment. But with that purchase order number, they are able to figure out who to send it to, because they'll just be able to look up and see who created that purchase order. Now, if there is no purchase order number on it, you are going to check the invoice for the name of the purchaser, the person who placed the order, and then the invoice is going to be sent to that person for approval, assuming that that person has the authority to initiate such purchases and purchases at that level. The red flag that you want to be looking for if you're processing invoices is multiple invoices for the same item. Sometimes what purchasers will do when they're purchasing something that's above their approval level, instead of just kicking the invoice up to their boss or their boss's boss, depending upon what your approval level stratum looks like, they ask the seller to break it down into several invoices. And that way, for example, if they're purchasing something for $30,000 and their approval limit is only $20,000, they'll say, hey, can you make it a $20,000 invoice and a $10,000 invoice? The seller doesn't care. All they want to do is get paid. So they'll go ahead and do that. But when you're processing invoices, you want to look for multiple items from the same vendor at the same time, usually by the same purchaser. Another way that you'll be able to suss this out, if you will, is by when you go to do your 3-way match, you'll see that when the first invoice came through, the purchase order was extinguished if you're using best practices, and there'll be no purchase order for it. Okay, check number 3, the vendor name. Now, when the invoice comes in, you'll look at the vendor name, and this is really important. It may not seem important, but it's critical because this is your way you're going to identify certain fraudulent invoices, because the fraudsters know that, let's say you do business with ABC Company for your office supplies. And what they'll do is they'll create an invoice and they'll make it from ABE Company. And they'll hope that you don't notice that slight difference in the name. So this really matters when it comes to identifying invoices, because it will help you weed out fraudulent invoices. And of course, the red flag is that it's a name that's not in your master vendor file, but it's one that's very close to it. Now, it's not to say that it's definitely fraudulent because it could be another company, but you want to give that invoice a second look if it has a name that's really close to somebody that you're already doing business with. Check number 4, and this might seem like, if you're not in accounts payable, might not seem like it's important, but it's critical, and that is the invoice number. This is the number one way that most accounts payable departments identify duplicate invoices, because invoice comes in a second and a third time, and it will have the same invoice number. Now, in a time which we're in now, where suppliers are sending multiple copies of the same invoice, and many of them are doing this because they're just trying to get paid, this is probably one of your best protections against paying an invoice twice, which, as you know, suppliers don't always return that second payment. Now, what your processes will know, and unfortunately many of them do this, is when they enter that invoice number and it comes back and says that invoice number has already been entered, they'll say, it was probably a mistake the last time, and then they'll just phony it up to get it in. So they'll add a space or a dot, and then that invoice will process. You want to make sure that they are not doing that. Now, the next issue that you want to check number 5, if you will, is the invoice date. You want to look and see what the invoice date. This is not as important when most invoices are delivered electronically, but if you're getting invoices in by mail, this is critical. And here's why. Your supplier will date the invoice the date they created, and they put it in the mail. And from their standpoint, that's reasonable. However, most accounts payable departments, when invoices come in through the mail, they'll date stamp it that day, which could be 2, 3, 4, even a week later than the invoice date. And then they pay according to the date that the invoice was received. As I said, in an electronic environment, it's the same, so it's not important. This becomes really important when you're getting early payment discounts and you're trying to earn them, or in those few cases where there are late fees and you're trying to avoid them. So you want to really hone in on that invoice date and to make sure it's what you agreed to. It's important when it comes to payment timing, and it's really important when it comes to your accruals. The red flag, if you will, in this area is sometimes a supplier who's trying to get you to pay early, and this is probably, bordering on unethical, but it's not quite there. Will put a due date that is earlier than it should. So, for example, you may have your procurement team may have negotiated net 60-day terms, and they'll put an invoice date on it so that you'll pay it in 30 days. Okay, so that's the red flag that you want to be looking at. Check number 6 is your line item detail. Now, we mentioned earlier the three-way match, and this is probably how you're going to find incorrect line item details, is by using your three-way match, which matches the purchase order against the receiver and against the invoice. This way, you'll be able to see that the quantity's right. Yes, you ordered 50 widgets, not 100 widgets. That the price is right. Yes, you said $1, not $1.50, and the description is right. It is what you ordered. So you got blue widgets, not green widgets, or grade A, not grade B or grade C. So you want to do that line item matching to make sure that you're getting what you are supposed to, what you ordered, and not more. Now, the other thing that your folks want to be checking is the terms, the payment terms when it's supposed to be paid, and any special things that you may have agreed to pay for or that the supplier was supposed to pay for. So, for example, if customization was included, maybe they were putting your company name on something, or the freight, who was supposed to pay the freight, all that stuff. The red flag is that sometimes unscrupulous suppliers will try and include fees on the invoice that you were supposed to pay. So, for example, that customization that we were talking about, or they might have a unit price that is higher than your folks think that you should be paying. So that's where that match against the purchase order and the receiving document come in really handy. You also want to make sure that you got everything that you ordered. If you ordered 100 widgets and they only sent you 50, you're not going to pay for the 100, or you don't want to pay for the 100. Now, check number 7, most of you won't have to do anymore, but there's still in a few cases you will. And this is where you have to go in and manually check the math. This is when, if you have a supplier who is manually creating the invoice, maybe they're typing it on the computer, or even maybe they're creating it in a Word document, but they've done the math themselves, you want to make sure that they've done it correctly. As I said, today, most suppliers, most of the people that you're doing business with will have these automatically produced, and there won't be mathematical errors. But the red flag that you should be looking for are those manually produced invoices where your supplier made a mistake with the math. And of course, if you find a mathematical error, you have to act like they made a mistake, not like they were trying to defraud you. And check number 8, payment terms. Are they offering early payment discounts? Are they supposed to be offering early payment discounts, or did you get it? If you see an invoice that shows an early payment discount and it's not from a supplier that normally gives them to you, then you want to alert your procurement team so that they know that this particular supplier does offer early payment discounts, and maybe they can get it for you. And of course, late fees. Now, the red flag. Sometimes a supplier will try and get you to pay early by simply indicating a due date that's shorter than the one your procurement team negotiated. Make sure you check. As promised, we're going to take a look at that one topic that is rarely mentioned in accounting books, but is critical to the success of the accounts payable function, and many get it wrong. That is the master vendor file, or as some refer to it, the vendor master file, and as a few refer to it, the vendor file. Let's start off with a very brief definition. By master vendor file, we mean the file that is the repository for all the information about your vendors used by the accounts payable department when they are making payments, and for other matters, but mostly when they are making payments. Sometimes other departments will have their own vendor file, but this is the one that's used for making payments. It is one master vendor file, and responsibility for master vendor file is one of the legs of the procure to pay chain, and that's what we talk about sometimes when we're talking about segregation of duties. So, and that's it. It's the repository for information. Responsibility for it typically lies in either the accounts payable department or the purchasing department, and we can have a big argument about where it belongs. But more often than not, it is in the accounts payable department. Now, when you set it up, when you set a vendor up in the master vendor file, you don't want to just get the minimum information that you need in order to get that first payment out the door. It can be used for other items. For example, tracking of whether you got W-9s and whether that W-9 was put through the TIN matching program and whether that was successful, and contact information from your vendor so that you have someone to call in case of an emergency. And if you've been anywhere in the corporate world in the last, year or two, you know that sometimes you need that contact information to call up the vendor to make sure that they actually were the ones who sent you that change of address form, and it's not some crook trying to get their hands on your money. Now, we've talked about fraud, and we've alluded to duplicate payments and duplicate invoices. These are just some of the issues why accounts payable is critical to cash flow. Accounts payable controls cash flow more than most people realize. When accounts payable pays too fast, cash drains away. When it pays too slow, vendors stop trusting you and sometimes even put you on payment hold. AP times payments, manages terms, manages invoices, prevents duplicate payments, and keeps cash predictable. Cash flow isn't just for the finance department. Accounts payable drives it every day. If this basic walkthrough helped you, don't stop there. You're about to level up in the next step. On the screen, you'll see 2 next steps. An invoice processing deep dive, perfect if you want to master the core accounts payable workflow, and accounts payable invoice fraud and controls, essential if you're building a stronger processes or stepping into a leadership position or wish to. Choose the one that fits where you are right now, and I'll meet you in the next video. Good luck.